Welcome back to the Goddess Collective, you guys. So I'm so excited to have you here. And this episode is a really, really special one to me because for anybody that knows me personally knows that I love the woo-woo. I love the woo-woo. But up until honestly about a year ago, it was something that I really only kept to myself or maybe had some conversations with my mom. But for the most part, it's been very an internal journey. And it's only been recently that I've been exploring, sharing outwardly my thoughts and my opinions and my experiences with others. And a big part of that has been through interviewing the incredible women that I have in this Goddess Collective group and meeting these women that are, diving into different realms and have different zones of genius. And with today's guest, Violet Maverick, you're going to see she is a fireball. She has some magnetic energy and she does some really big things in her work. But she also does it in a really unique way that for me personally, like I hadn't ever really had conversations with people around like the way that she heals and the way that she, moves energy and helps people heal. So this is a very fun, unique conversation around just what she does as a spirit seer and, an energy mover and a healer and a psychic. Her world is a big, vast one that is so exciting. And really, if you take down the walls and you just listen to what she has to say, it's really powerful. So I can't wait to see what you have, to say on this episode, what you take away from it, and what kind of shifts you experience in your own life. Because I really feel like even just tapping into conversations around these subjects, listening in can be massively, it can create a massive change in just the way that you see the world, the way that you feel and your own energy. So yeah, I think it's going to be a beautiful episode. I can't wait for you to just kind of see what we dove into. We talked a lot about just why maybe the woo-woo side of the world, or like in today's world, why woo-woo can sometimes get misunderstood or be seen in a maybe a more negative light, and like how she handles staying an empowered person, even even in the world that we're in, she's able to ground herself and really claim her space and own her powers. And she said she wasn't always that way. So I love her story, her evolution, and I love what she's doing now and the way she empowers herself and others through her work. So definitely tune in if you are somebody who loves the woo-woo side of this of life, or you want to dive in more and are curious on what this is about. I think you're going to love this episode. As always, definitely check the show notes for links if you want to connect more one-on-one with today's guest, or just learn a little bit more about what she does and her work. So yeah, can't wait to see what you think. Enjoy the episode. Really allow yourself to just be curious, shut down your mind for a second, shut down any walls, any judgments, and just take in the information, take in the content, and see where it goes. I think you'll have fun. All right, enjoy the episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Well, hi, Violet. I'm so excited you're here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm so good. And for anybody that is new to the Goddess Collective, this is actually like not my first conversation with Violet, but I knew from our first conversation, we had to dive deeper into what she does and just kind of just have a even juicier conversation. So I'm so excited to have you back. And
Jimmy.
Yeah. And so a little bit about what you do. So I know like you share like in your bio, you're a seer, a spirit walker,
Right.
You shift energy, you help people shift to live their best lives. But I want to dive into that because you are doing some big stuff. Like, tell us, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of intro yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and how you create that alignment for people.
Sure. So I do a variety of things. I think I would say, just to get into the practicality of it, my main gift is being a seer. I can close my eyes, I don't have to, but I can see into the spirit realm. So whenever I'm doing readings or anything that I'm doing, I basically just set my intent, by which I mean I think about what it is that I want to know, and then I ask to be shown that, and then I can see. and I can either wait and have images fill my head, or I can be intentional with trying to see things about a specific topic. So my favorite way to use that, I have used it a variety of ways. I see, I coach, I give readings, I coach, I can counsel people, I can help align people energetically. My favorite thing to do is heal. And what I do when I do that is that basically I have 3 different ways I approach it. First, I do what I call a root cause reading, and that's where I ask to see the root cause of why someone is sick. Then I project into their body, so my spirit man going into their body and seeing what the problem is in there. And then the third thing I do is that I kind of look and see where they are in the spirit, because if they're sick, it's usually not someplace good. And then I can stick my little spirit fingers in there and move them to a different place, and then that helps to align them energetically. So hopefully I didn't go too overboard in that introduction, but that's basically what I do.
Yeah, well, I think it's so exciting because, I personally like this world is not like necessarily new for me as far as working with healers,
Mhm.
working with people that shift
Sure.
energy and are in
Sure.
that like that's that world. But I will say your approach was so different than any I'd seen, and I should back up a little bit because
Okay.
we did a mini session together the last time we connected, and you really did help heal me, and but the way that you helped me like lift literally after we talked, the pressure that I had been feeling on my heart like literally lifted off. And all of a sudden I
Mhm.
felt like brave to like make the moves I needed to make in my business that I don't even know if I would have made for like another year, to be honest. And so,
Wow.
but what you had shared with me when we connected was like you were talking about like creatures and figures, and you were painting scenes for me about like dragons and things. And it wasn't that I didn't believe you, but it was so different than what I had heard before. So, can you kind of just walk
Yeah.
through, like how you like what specifically you see, or like how you developed these, how trying to think of the right way to say it, like how you got into this specific way of doing your
I
like
think that's a good question. That's question is good. How did I get here? The answer is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. No. Okay. Oh no. Hold on 1 second. Give me just 1 second. My phone has been playing battery shenanigans with me. So literally was at 70 when we started this call, and now I'm at 20.
Tech,
So
you
we're
know
gonna
what?
check.
Tech just loves us when we get together.
Right.
This is not our first rodeo with
I
bad.
know. I know. I was like, why did it drop so fast? Okay, we are good now. Everything's good. Okay, so how did we get here? All right, so I guess I've been a person who really loves to pray my whole life. So it kind of started there. When I get in a pickle, I pray. And so I was just kind of used to spending copious amounts of time in prayer. I'm talking when I was in college, I probably spent hours in prayer a day. Now I consider it more the way that I pray has shifted. So it's not maybe your petitionary prayer, like God, please do this, God, please do that. But I might be actually the one doing the things. So I think the most recent bout of it probably came when my husband and I became homeless, and we just really didn't have any money. And when you don't have money to throw at things, you start getting really good at prayer. That are complaining. Am I right? So we started getting really good at prayer. And we just started seeing that no matter what we did, that God would provide for it, or no matter what happened, that God would provide for it. So I have a phrase that I use, which is go into the spirit. I don't know if anybody else uses that phrase, but what I mean when I say that is that I close my eyes and I engage with the spirit realm. And I'll say, God, please show me what the problem is. Because I go by the stance that everything in like God's will in life is for everything to go well. So if something's not going well, then it's out of alignment, and you need to fix it and bring it back into alignment. And frequently there are like demonic entities involved and stuff like that. But you don't know what it is. You can guess once you see enough of it, but you don't know until you can see it exactly what it is. So it's just been a lot of time of, this just popped to mind, so I'll share it. Before, it's actually kind of different than that, but right before my wedding, for instance, it was 10 days before I'm walking down that aisle in that dress. 10 days. and we're practicing our dance that I personally choreographed, so I was very vested. And I popped my ankle. I popped my ankle, and like it was pretty obvious that it was broken. Like it was bad. And well, if you thought I was gonna postpone the wedding or limp down the aisle, you're wrong. So I immediately had to up my faith significantly for a faith healing. I didn't even go to the doctor. You know what doctors say? They say your ankle's broken. Do you know how hard it is to heal when you think your ankle's broken? No, not doing it. So I just started praying, and I said, I looked God dead in the eye, and I was like, are you going to heal my ankle? And he told me, he said, if you think I'm going to let my daughter limp down the aisle, you're wrong. And that was a very emotional moment. And so a day later, he took me and he said, I want you to look into my eyes. So I'm looking into his eyes in the spirit. And I was filled with faith that my ankle was going to be healed. And I saw like a new ankle come down on a conveyor belt. And I know that there are like storehouses of body parts in heaven so that we can do stuff like this. So a new ankle come down, and I saw angels come and get it and attach it to my foot. And God was like, okay, now I want you to put weight on your foot, which I couldn't do. And I put weight on it. It hurt, but I put weight on it. So I'm using my seer capability to see what he's doing there. That's one example. And he progressively healed my ankle, and I was not limping by the time I went down the aisle. It was incredible. No, people didn't even believe that it had been broken because they didn't have the medical proof. So it was an amazing miracle that he did for me. So that's one place where I use that. And then just kind of progressively things would happen. My husband would get pulled over for no reason. We would go into the spirit and see that there were demonic entities like messing with his car, messing with our finances. So just and then it started to become that we would see it wasn't just demons. Like Christians are very known for talking about demons. Am I right? Are Christians known for talking about fairies or the fae or anything like that? No, we are not. Most Christians would probably be like, well, those aren't even real, and they would be wrong. A lot of times I like these healings because they're easy. A lot of times when I project into someone's body, this is one of my first ones. I didn't understand what was happening, but it did work. I think I mentioned this in our last call, but someone said her arm hurt. I was just on Facebook. I was practicing healing people. This girl says my arm hurts. I go and look to see what it is. There are itty bitty little elves living on her person, on her body. There are tiny elves living on her body. I'm looking at it and I'm like, how could this be? But that's what I saw. So I was like, okay, so I'm not going to try to cast these into hell or what have you, because they're not mean. So I just went up to the elf and I'm like, hey, see all that scaffolding you've built on her arm? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, it's hurting her. Could you please not do that? And he was like, all right. And then I asked her, I was like, hey, how does your arm feel? And she's like, my arm doesn't hurt anymore. So crazy stuff like that is how I learned. I had to find a way to do it that wasn't throwing money at the situation or using worldly systems. If you have to do it spiritually, you start learning really hands-on, like what the spiritual realm looks like, what types of things you can see there. And that's how I
Well, I just want to thank you for sharing so openly your experiences. And for anybody that's listening that maybe, again, like I was saying before, the way that you share your gifts outwardly is very different than I think a lot of people talk about it. So even people that are in this world might feel a little bit like maybe it's confusing, or maybe they don't believe it or whatever. But I just
Sure.
I just want to like really say and acknowledge you for just fully being convicted in your truth and knowing your truth and not quieting yourself for the comfort of others. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm just curious, like, have you always had these gifts, or is this something that has just kind of evolved? And if so, would you say you were always like really empowered to share them so openly?
No. It's been a huge transformation over time. No, what I think I always had strongest was a sense that God was real and that I was strongly connected with him. That's what I had. I make jokes about I out-Christianed the Christians because I grew up in church, and I'd identify as a Christian. And I just remember like they would do altar calls in my church growing up, and I started getting introduced to like the charismatic movement, for lack of a better term, and like gifts of the spirit and stuff like that. And I was like, that's so cool. And the church has this irritating teaching that you don't get all the gifts, nobody gets all the gifts. Ha! Have you ever seen X-Men? That's what that means, not whatever you were trying to do. Anyway, but so I started out and I just knew I was strong in prayer. And people are like, what's your gift? And I'm like, I don't know. I think I have the gift of compassion. I have the gift of knowledge because I'm smart. First of all, I don't have the gift of compassion. I just cry a lot. Look at my post online, you'll see. And the gift of knowledge does not mean that you're really smart. It means that a word of knowledge is when God poofs knowledge into your brain that you wouldn't have had any other way. So it's defined poorly there. Anyway, so I was able to pray well, and I spent time away from God while I was I guess early 20s, and then I knew he would pull me back, and he did. And he put me in touch with a couple people who were they weren't really into spiritual gifts, but they believed in them. And my friends were all developing the gift of tongues, which I had always wanted, but God hasn't given me that gift. It's channeling. Prayer languages are channeling, get over yourselves. Anyway, so God showed me how to have that gift. And I'm so grateful that every gift that I have, God has led me into. He's helped me develop it, which has been like the hard way, but it's proven to me that you don't have to be like special. You just have to seek God. Like the more you seek God, the more like Jesus said that like signs and wonders will follow you, because you start looking like God. You start looking like your Father when you're following him, right? And he does all the miracles. Everybody knows that's what God does. So if you aren't busting out in miracles, must not know him that well. Anyway, but one day I asked him, hey, I want to prophesy. Like, I know I can pray, but I want to prophesy. And I was praying one day, and he said, okay, stop. And I was like, all right. He's like, instead of asking me for something, I want you to speak it out like it's a statement. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, so pick a person. So I picked a person. He's like, okay, now start speaking out like you're telling them what they are instead of asking me to do something for them. So he led me, and I spoke a bunch of stuff over her. She wasn't there. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So several years later, I was like, God, like I really want to heal people, and I believe that I can. And I just started doing it. And trusting that that he was going to lead me in it, because I know that God wants people healed. So I would just be online. I would be in some huge light worker group, and I'd be like, hey, who wants healing? And people just absolutely come like sharks. You'll have to beat them off with a stick. I don't know if you've ever done that in God's form, but the struggle is real. So I would pick a couple people, and I'd be like, hey, what do you want to be healed from? And they would tell me. And then I would just start trying to do things. At first, I didn't know what I was doing. I would just literally be sending positive vibes their direction. And then slowly, I started to develop best practices. I started to imagine their body right in front of me, and then I could see it. And then I started seeing like, oh, this person has nails in their body. Why do they have nails in their body? That's not supposed to be there. Let's get those out of there. And eventually I connected that if I took those out, they would experience an energetic change, whether they felt it or not. And I started getting testimonies of some people would experience instant healing. Some people not instant, but it would happen in a little bit. Like a couple days later, they would tell me that it had happened. So
yeah, that's it's so amazing, everything that you're saying and the stuff that you've experienced and you're helping people with. Like, this is not just like basic little things. Like, you're literally healing people from the inside out using your gifts. It's very powerful. But I do want to take a step back, because you've shared so much goodness that I'm like, oh my God, there's so many like literally building blocks to living like an amazing life. So something that I really believe in is, regardless of what it is, if it's God, if it's the universe, if you call it source or whatever, like I always believe in having a higher power, because what it does is it pulls you through the hard times. Anytime like life just feels too overwhelming, like you know that something bigger than you is in control, and you're not alone. So I always tell people that regardless of what you believe in, whether you resonate, if you're listening to this, resonate with God or not, just having that higher power is going to get you through. But I do want to take a step back as well and just ask, like, because something that you spoke a lot about is just, I led with faith. I just
Yeah.
trusted. I just knew. What are some ways that you would tell people to harness that feeling of trust, or to lean into trust and move with that instead of trying to control everything, or kind of having that resistance up and saying, "Ooh, I don't know." Like, how do you just what kind of advice do you have for people to just like lean into that a little bit
You
more?
know, difficult thing. That's a great question. It's a thing that my husband and I are still working through to this day, because control, besides fear, is probably the single greatest thing that keeps us away from God. Just needing to feel in control to be safe. So definitely control is a big thing that you have to overcome when you're starting to just trust your intuition more. So an exercise that my husband actually gave me is, when you get up in the morning, instead of thinking to yourself, okay, what do I need to do today? Well, I gotta go do the groceries, and the baby needs to be fed, and I should probably hit work at 8 o'clock or something. If you have the luxury of being self-employed, then you don't have that one. But he's like, no, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And it takes a minute, because we're very disconnected from our hearts. It takes me a minute. And
That is the ultimate truth. For real. The society, I
yeah,
always say, I feel like if people were connected to their hearts a little more and could just speak their truth, the world would be a better place. But anyways.
right. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Anyway, so yes, we have to we have to keep that just connection with our hearts, because we lose it. And it's difficult to get it. I'm sorry, but the reason I'm so distracted is my my husband's trying to get my attention, but I can't really go in there right now, so it's difficult. No, it's hard, because you have things that you want to do, and feel like still in this process of trying to figure out, what do I want to do today? And I have all these creative gifts that sometimes it can be difficult to be like, what, I want to do that right now. Like, in addition to doing all this spiritual work, I'm also a writer, and I'm also a painter. I'm developing painting skills, and I love to dance. And sometimes it's very difficult. Let me text him real quick. I'm so sorry.
Intermission, a small intermission. But no, but
I'm so sorry.
What were you saying?
I'm sorry, I'm bad at multitasking.
Okay. No, but I really love what you're saying, though, is just like being authentic, true to yourself, like connecting to the things you really enjoy.
Yes.
And allowing that to just be enough.
Yes. And when you're learning to trust your intuition so that you can get into these things, sometimes when there are problems, like as trusting your intuition in order to go further into spiritual gifts, I feel like everybody deep down already knows their truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just have to tap into it. And I would say, like, for every single yes, no question that you have in front of you, like, should I take that job? Should I not? Should I do this creative endeavor? Should I not? Should I marry this boy? Should I not? You already have that answer. And just as you go through life, whenever you come to a junction, ask yourself, what do I want? What brings me peace and joy? Instead of, what should I do? What do I need to do to be safe? Because we tend to answer questions out of fear, like, well, my job says I have to go on that trip. Well, what do you want to do? Now, sometimes you have to be able to back that up with saying screw you to your employer and backing out of a job if you're going to make a decision like that. But you got to start trusting your heart, because the more you trust your heart, the more it's just going to blossom into something beautiful. And the more you start telling your heart yes, 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 it actually walks you out of a bunch of diseases, because the reason that you have health conditions is because you're not aligned with your heart. And when you do that, it heals everything. So that's my advice.
Yeah. And, I want to speak into that a little bit from my own personal experience. For the last couple of years, I personally, and this is something I've talked a little bit about in past, episodes of things and videos that I've done, but yeah, for 2 years, I literally had just these symptoms that just would not quit, and they kept getting worse to the point where
Yes.
like vertigo was taking over. I was feeling nauseous all the time. My peripherals were off. I just constantly felt like I didn't have control of my body, and like no matter what it was, like whether it was I was drinking a little bit of alcohol or I was eating like a healthy dinner, like I would get everything would throw me off kilter, and I didn't understand it. No tests were coming up with any answers. And
Right.
finally, the only thing that made all of my symptoms go away, and I swear I'm not making this up, is
Mhm.
I made a powerful decision. I actually, there's a difference in making a decision and making a powerful decision where it's like very clear cut.
I like that.
You're there. And I had been wavering on a decision that I thought that I had made, but didn't realize I hadn't fully made that decision. And so it was the decision to quit my job. And I told myself, I was like, yeah, this year I will do it. Now, was I fully going to go into it? I didn't know when. And it's almost like I wasn't going to do it. I was like back and forth, back and forth. And finally, I just had to come to some truth and say, oh my God, I don't want this anymore. And also noticing that when I was doing work for my job, like my body was reacting. I was getting physically, like my ears were getting red and hot. My stomach was feeling nauseous, all these things. And the moment I said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, I put in my notice, the next day, things started subsiding. And then all of a sudden, within that week, all of my
Yeah.
symptoms over the last 2 years are literally gone. And so I really believe that we have to remember we're not just a head. We're not just a
No.
floating head thinking about experiences, trying to convince ourselves of things. We're also a body. Our body keeps score. There's a book about that. The body keeps score. And so we're holding all these things in our body. And so we have to just know like our bodies are speaking to us all the time, and it knows sometimes better than we do, if not all the time. So yeah, so that was something that I powerfully experienced, honestly,
Yeah.
recently this month. But I'll tell you, even though I'm still a little bit scared and I'm still a little bit like, oh my gosh, what is going to be on the inside of this thing? To me,
Right.
I'm like, my body is healed. Like,
Yeah.
if that is not a sign that this is the right direction, then I do not know what is. So I just wanted to speak because I'm so passionate about it, because I've seen it change my own life. And so I know that the work you did also started me on this journey of that healing. And so what you're saying is so powerful too, just trusting ourselves. But that's a whole other, I feel like we could talk about that for like an entire episode.
Right.
So like that, we could go even deeper on that, but I kind of want to switch gears a little bit here.
By the way, you're fine. My phone is charging.
Okay, yay. Tech. Tech loves us today now. Okay. So I want to know a little bit more about you, in a sense. Like, what do you wish some people either knew about you or the work that you do? Because I imagine, and now you don't have to accept this as the truth, but I imagine you're a little bit misunderstood sometimes, or this realm that you're in maybe gets confusion wrapped around it and assumptions made. So what do you wish people knew about what you do, or even you in this work?
Sure. I wish that people would not demonize it the way that they do. That's what I wish. Be it, it's easy to say it's the Christians that do it most, but it's not. People have their reasons for being afraid of it. And, we live in a society that worships science. So if you suggest that there's something beyond science, then a lot of times people will just flat out refuse to hear you. And you can really tell if someone is ready to go in their life or even get healed by what the healing looks like. If you show them the cure and they're like, that's not even real, that's not hurt bad enough yet. No, don't do that. But yeah, no, I not to make it about religion, I don't know that it is, but I had a point in time when I identified a little bit more with New Agers than I did with Christians. And what I discovered was just incredible. It was that they were experiencing the same phenomena, but they had different keywords for it. So to this day, depending on who I'm talking to, I phrase what I say that I do differently in order to ensure like peak acceptance from them. So if I'm giving a common parlance in the world in general for seeing something and then telling someone about it, like seeing something in the spirit and then telling someone about that, is called a reading. But if you are in the church, then it's called prophetic word. So that's kind of charged. And then the word reading is kind of charged. So I've started to say this is a message from God, because that one seems to not get people to trigger. Because if you tell a Christian, I'm going to give you a reading, they're like, oh, I don't work with psychics. It's like, do you want a message from God?
Well, it just shows the vibration of words is powerful, right?
And I've just noticed that people tend to get offended when you don't use the right words to talk about something that they feel strongly about. So you really have to tiptoe sometimes. But the truth of the matter is that, first of all, it's okay to be who you are. That's one thing that God has shown me, because at various different times during my life, I've identified as agnostic, as a Christian, as a witch, as a seer. But you know what? I personally haven't changed, is the thing. I haven't. Like, my core vibration of my DNA, of my identity, is who I am. And that's what God sees when he sees me. And I'm actually glad, I can't believe I'm talking about this, because Christians will just have a meltdown. Like, if a Christian listens to your podcast and hears this, they're going to have a meltdown when I say this. It happens. But
I just want to make it very clear, I'm not like anti-Christian. I'm personally not anti anything. I just want to, while we're here, I just want to make the point that this entire conversation is meant to just explore different avenues and thought processes and thoughts and mindsets of empowered women, specifically at this time.
Right.
And so I just want to clearly just put that caveat, like, this is not a hate on anybody in their specific religion. It's just opening up a dialogue about people's perspectives. And so
yes. Very, very true, Jessie. Very true. I guess just to answer the question, what do I wish people knew more about me? It's just that it's not really about the words that I'm using or the labels. It's about who is God and who are you and where do you want to go to be with him, regardless of which words are used. And that it's okay, whoever you are, wherever you are in God, regardless of what religious label you use to put on yourself, that it's okay. God sees you as you are. He cares about the core that's in your heart, those heart thoughts. And he cares about your destiny and whether or not you want to partner with him to get there. That's it.
Yeah. That's it. And I think it's powerful to just keep in mind too, that whenever something is maybe misunderstood, if there's anybody that's, still watching this and connecting with us, which is amazing. It's important to know that if there is something that's like you misunderstand or whatever, the best thing you can do is lean in and ask questions, get curious, get to know it. And so Absolutely. What I love about what you do is you're not saying this is the only way to connect with God, and this isn't the only way to heal yourself, but this is a resource that is available. And the more you tap in and you express curiosity and you're just open to it, you can create massive healing in ways you never expected before. So that's really another key here too, is like, if this is something that's piquing curiosity for anybody that's listening, like, give yourself the opportunity, because honestly, listening to you connect with the women of the Goddess Collective, like we had you do before, was awesome. But then getting one-on-one time with you was a whole other experience that created massive shifts for me. And so that's why I just encourage anybody that's kind of interested in diving into this world in any way and is reading with you right now, like, it would be so worth the opportunity to just kind of connect and see like what this could open up for you.
Of course. Yes. Yeah, I haven't met a person yet that it wasn't powerful for when I worked with them. And I think I've worked with people of every religion. And when I do readings for people who aren't my particular faith, I tell you what God doesn't do during those readings. He doesn't say, oh, I can't even talk to them until they clean their act up and accept Jesus as a personal Lord and Savior. No, not once. When I work with starseeds, which is people who believe that they're from another planet, then God's showing me readings that have to do with outer space. When I work with people who strongly believe in magic and identify as witches or wizards or stuff like that, God's showing me readings that help bring out their magic. God is totally cool with that. He's like, oh, they're magical. They're helping people. He always finds the good in whatever the person is doing. and brings that out, magnifies it. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Every single person that I work with, God knows what they need to hear, and he speaks in their language, and it's always perfect and it's always beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Really, it's about, and that's like the reason I'm using the word collective in this group is it's about bringing everybody together, uniting us as one, and that's one beautiful way to look at it is knowing that just because even if you want to like receive healing, there's no judgment ahead of time. It's just you get to fully be accepted as you are, right?
Yeah.
And then move towards that. And then even sometimes that just allowing yourself to say, okay, I'm not maybe where I want to be right now, but I'm open because I love myself and I want some help or I want some healing or I'm ready to just talk about this. That right there can shift so much in your life by being willing to say, okay, I'm scared, but I'm going to say, hey, I need some help.
Yeah. Scared.
Well, awesome. So tell us about, what's coming next for you. Cause I know you've obviously been doing this work for a while. Like, how are you supporting people right now? Or what are you creating? Anything juicy we should look forward to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's coming next for me? So I always want to go more deeply into healing people and what that looks like and be more audacious in the spirit. Like wherever you are, there's always new heights. Do you know what I mean? So right now, the thing that I do most is I do one-on-one sessions with people, and I do kind of a combination of reading slash energy work slash prophetic prayer. Prophetic prayer is when you channel straight from God, and it works a lot better than just you praying what you think is good. And yeah, those sessions are incredibly powerful because they hit on the truths that the people need to hear. And then when God guides me, I'm able to shift energy. And whenever you shift energy, you're going to see instant impact. So that's been really beautiful. I really need to start asking people to bring Kleenex to those sessions because people cry a lot. People get back to me a lot, telling me that things change instantly, that I really help them, stuff like that. That's what I've been doing. Where I want to go is that I've been noticing, and I think we even experienced this on our first group call together, Jessie, is that I have a wealth of knowledge. And it's great for me to keep that all to myself, but it's even more powerful if I share that with everyone else. Because I remember when COVID started happening, and I thought to myself, my God, I have capacity to heal people. I need to be doing that. I can't hold this to myself. I immediately started training other people to heal. And so if I make 10 people like me, that's 10 times more powerful. That's 10 times more impact we can have on this world. That's a long way of saying, I think I want to start teaching. And, yes, the biggest thing I think that there is to do is that a lot of people have, I guess, a tenuous relationship with God / a lot of people are like, I don't even know what my gifts are, or, I don't necessarily know how to connect with God. I don't know what my destiny is. Sometimes I ask people, well, what's your destiny? And they're like, I know I'm here for a reason. I'm like, you are here for a reason. Let's figure out what that is.
Oh God, I get that too. I'm like, hey, don't stress about it. We're gonna figure that out.
Yes. So I want to start out with teaching people. It's super easy to connect with God and to find those things out. It's just not taught, not even in church. I don't know, maybe in some churches they teach it. I haven't really seen that yet in the powerful ways that I've learned to do it. And so I want to start teaching that. I want to teach people you can project into heaven very easily. You can develop seer capabilities. You can go learn how to do miracles there. Easy. And I want to start teaching healing. I think I'd love to create a group of people who did joint visions together and just go places and heal things and fix things and learn, because we're all going, a lot of us, whatever religious teacher we adhere to, we go and we listen to them, and I don't know about y'all, but on Sundays, they preach from the same book every day, and it's a good book. But the thing is that God is infinite and holy books are finite. And we have holy books and we can read through them, and we already have the information there. There's infinite information we have access to in heaven. Infinite. We could be learning the mysteries of the universe. We could do it anytime we want. It is not difficult, but nobody has told us we could do it. And so that's definitely the direction that I want to go. I want to walk people further into the supernatural. God called me out the other day. He told me the reason you're so mad is you're super powerful and you're not even using your power. I'm like, oh, what do you mean I'm not using my power? Of course I am.
I love this so much because I just want to hone in really quick because something that you're saying is like the next level for you is speaking your truth, helping people at a little bit larger scale, like being heard. And what I love about that is that's also not only going to empower the collective, as we mentioned, but it's going to empower yourself. And I really believe that the next step in anybody's evolution is how can you tie your purpose to yourself? Because it sounds selfish, but you rise stronger and are heard more when it benefits you too. You get to fill your cup at the same time you're filling everybody else, and it's a beautiful kind of give and take, like receiving and giving. And so so I just love that that's your next chapter, and truly using your voice, being so powerful with that energy is massive. So I can't wait to see what you do. And so I'll make sure that I have all of your links in the show notes. So anybody that wants to connect with you, one-on-one or learn more about your teachings, can dive into that with you. So make sure you check those out if you want to get involved. But before we sign off, where can we find you? Where is the best place to connect with you?
The best place to connect with me right now is my Violet Maverick account on Facebook. That is currently the hub. I'm working on expanding to Instagram and Twitter. So my Insta right now is also Violet Maverick, although as you may have guessed, not my real name. My real name is 𝘴𝘱𝘪𝘳𝘪𝘵, and I think I'm going to be starting to make all my social accounts under that name. So under Twitter, you'll find 𝘴𝘱𝘪𝘳𝘪𝘳, and my current professional page is Maverick Spiritual Consulting on Facebook.
Yes,
but you'll under my personal page.
I love it. Well, we'll put all the current links that you have, and excuse me, and then as they grow and change, we can change those out, or people can connect with you and get the new links. But before we go, my last question is, what is any last bit of advice you want to share? Any words of wisdom that you want to sign us off with to just get people thinking about a deeper connection with themselves or the world or God, or tapping into that internal power?
I'm gonna attempt to channel this one because I just feel like it's a good moment for that. And I just want to tell everybody that's on this session that you're more beautiful than you could possibly understand. You're like stars in the night sky, and that God holds every single one of you and all your dreams and all your hopes and imaginations in the palm of his hand. And the instant that you choose to engage with that, he's going to take you and run with you so far that you can't even see the end of it, like a light just shooting off into the distance. That's what he's going to do with you. So don't be afraid. Just take the, you're in good hands.
Oh, that's literally have chills. That's so beautiful. Thank you for that. I think sometimes we need to hear stuff like that more than we realize. It can feel, I could go on and on, but it can feel, like you're alone sometimes in your journey, as I think the people that resonate with this channel, are searching for a deeper purpose, are looking for something more. And that can feel pressuring. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel like you're not enough all the time. You know what I mean? So to hear those words that, you're great, you're beautiful, you're more than enough, you're perfect, just trust, lean in, like that right there is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful. And we'll have you back. Oh my gosh, this is part 2 is somewhere in the future. So get ready, everybody. But thank you so much.
You're so welcome. This has been lovely, Desi. Thanks.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye. When there are problems like